Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in here. If you're watching this, I'm guessing that you're probably kind of in the same situation that I was back in early January 2020 and then 21. I was supposed to originally do the Colorado Trail in 2020, but well, we all know what happened then. Um, by this time in last year, I knew I was hiking the Colorado Trail. I knew about when I was starting. I was excited. It was a matter of just counting down the days and trying to keep myself busy. Um, if you're in that same situation, well, you're like a lot of us. But I thought I would put this video out for those of you getting ready to do the trail about things that I would keep the same and change if I were to hike this again. One of my somebody watched one of the earlier videos made that suggestion. I thought it was a great suggestion. So let me go ahead. I will give you a lot of things that I really liked. I thought I had a pretty good trip and had everything organized really well that I was happy with. Very few things I changed, but I will tell you a couple of things. And then at the end, I'll give you a couple tips and tricks that I picked up while I was hiking. Probably some of you know these already. All right, first thing was my start date. I started on June 17th, 2021. The winter of 2020 and 2021 was really low here in Colorado. Our snowpack was pretty dismal. So by the time June came around, there wasn't much snow. The only snow that was a little questionable was if the cornice that was at Georgia Pass was gone. A week before I left, people were still post-holing through that. By the time I got there, I had to walk over two little snow areas, and they're both about 10 yards, and it wasn't bad at all. But that was because the winter was really low snowpack. So if you're getting ready to go, pay attention to snowpack. Right now in the winter, hoping for summer. In the winter of 21-22, our snowpack here in Colorado is great. I think as of early January, we're all over 120%, which means a super early start date may not work. You may run into a lot more snow. The other thing that I did, my start date, I believe, was a Thursday, which I really liked. I planned that on purpose. I didn't want to start on the weekend. Everybody starts on a weekend. You know, it's the easiest time to get off. But with that many people starting on the weekend, it's going to cause a little more crowd on the trail. And also, that first segment, a lot of people push all the way through to the South Platte, and there's only so many camping grounds. I heard probably 2-3 weeks after me, I think there was like July 1st, 150 people started the trail that day. That would have made for pretty full, trail conditions there. So by starting on a Thursday, I avoided some of that as well. I will say the one thing that was negative about starting so early in June was there was not a lot of people on the trail. I think I only camped with people on trail 3 times, once before Breckenridge, and then the day after that. There was only like 3 times that I camped with people. So depending on the experience you're looking for. I like camping with people. I don't like hiking with people because I'm so slow. I don't want to keep people back. But it was always nice those days that I got to camp with people and chat with them a little bit in the evening. I really appreciated it. So the later you start towards July, the more people there are going to be out there. So that's something to keep in mind. The second thing that I think I did a really good job on was my resupply points. My first resupply was in Breckenridge, Colorado. It took me about 7-8 days to get there, so it was a bit of a heavy carry. There is 2 resupplies before that, Bailey, which is like 40 miles in, and then Jefferson, which is like 2 days before. But I decided that I was going to push to Breckenridge. One, I knew that starting off, I wasn't going to be very hungry, so I didn't have to carry an excess amount of food. I think I came into Breckenridge and still had a little bit of food left, so that was no problem. But Breckenridge, I did send a box to the post office there, though there was no really reason to. There's all kinds of good shopping in Breckenridge. There's grocery stores, there's Walmart in that area, there's Outfitters, so there's no reason to send that there. I just did it to save a little bit of money and make sure I had the food that I wanted. From Breckenridge, I pushed on to Twin Lakes was my next resupply. The Twin Lakes store had some options for resupplying. I wouldn't want to count on it. I did send a box there as well. But the other thing I ended up doing in Twin Lakes was I decided I needed a break. I hadn't taken a zero, so I hitched into Leadville, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit, but that was a pretty easy hitch as well. So sending a box to Twin Lakes was a good idea. You could resupply there, but you had some limited options. Or if you want to go into Leadville, you can do that as well. Twin Lakes is kind of your second option of getting to Leadville. I wanted to push on a little bit farther. My third resupply then was at the Monarch Crest store. Now, if you are taking the Collegiate East, once you get to that road, you're going to have to hang a right and get a hitch up to the Monarch Crest. I didn't realize it. I was thinking that the Monarch Crest was on the west loop. So you will have to hitch up there, and that was a pretty easy hitch up there, and then a really easy hitch back. I got a little trail angel that was taking a break from the PCT while his people he was hiking up there was in Colorado, and he gave me a lift back down the hill from Monarch Crest. Monarch Crest is a great place to resupply for snacks. They had all kinds of snacks that you could want. But as far as actual dinner menu items, pretty slim pickings. They had some, I think some like noodles and stuff like that, but there were no dehydrated meals, but plenty of snacks. So if you can live on all kinds of nuts and jerky and candy bars and all that kind of stuff for a few days, that's great. But otherwise, I sent a box there, and they were awesome. When you get in, they had an area in the store set aside for thru hikers. You could charge. It was great. Had a little snack bar there. Had like hot dogs and stuff like that. But it was a really good store there for snacks, but not so much for real food. From Monarch Crest, my next stop was the Molasses Lake Campground. Now, I heard when I got back, some people were having problems resupplying there. It sounds like the people that were running it in 22 was their first set time running that campground or being the camp host or whatever. So they were getting a little frustrated with hikers by the time end of the season comes. So if you're there, please make sure you're nice to camp host so you don't ruin it for the people coming in future years. That was the only place I had to pay to pick up a box. It was a $10 resupply box there. I did send it there, and I would recommend sending a box there. They don't have enough food there to resupply. They did have a bit of a hiker box there, but there was not much food. They do have showers there. They claim to be warm. They were cold. But it was a nice area. They did have a little picnic table outside that I was able to charge my electronics at for a couple hours. They had like snacks, like ice cream bars and Cokes and stuff like that. So it wasn't too bad a place. And then I ended up going to Creed, Colorado. Before, when I was planning this time of year, I really had planned to go to Lake City because I wanted to stay at Raven's Roost. But as I got closer and closer, Raven's Roost was not open, and it didn't actually end up opening until I got on the trail. And at the time, when I left, there wasn't really any indication if they were going to open. I would like to stay at that house, so it seems pretty nice. But I ended up going into Creed. I got a ride down into Creed to the ladies I was hiking with. Kind of shanghaied some side-by-sides and got us a ride down, which was really cool. But Creed was my favorite town on the trail. I really liked it. We stayed in the Ball Diamonds. Pay attention to what day it is on odd days, at least what it was this year. The sprinklers go off at night. So they went off at like 3:20 in the morning. We got soaked. But Creed was a great little town. I had a box sent there as well, but I also resupplied a few things in the grocery store, and I didn't think their prices were terribly bad. I know Lake City is notorious for having really expensive resupply options there. So you might want to think about Creed. And then I got a ride back up from the Holo Hiker company there, which is great. I can't remember, I want to say it was Lori or something like that was her name. She was awesome. That's who I sent my box to, and they were a lot of fun. I got to go back up in a little side-by-side. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Creed. So should you mail yourself a resupply? Should you buy in town? It's up to you. Like I said, Breckenridge, and Creed were really good grocery stores. Twin Lakes, like I said, you get up to Leadville. I would definitely, if you're planning to Molasses Campground, mail resupply there, and then Monarch Crest store too. They have great snacks. They did have very little hiker box. It was much bigger after I got left because I left a lot of stuff there. But because of COVID and all, they didn't want to have a big one there, so I just left a few things out where they told me. But it's great to support the local community by buying there. But you want to make sure that you can get the food that you want. As far as food go, that was another thing that I would kind of change. When I started out, I had plans of having lunch. I sent tortillas to every, in all my resupply. I had tuna and chicken packets. And after the first stretch, I decided I didn't like them. It wasn't so much I didn't like them. I just didn't want to stop to eat for lunch. I like to get hiking in the morning and then keep going. So I switched to more of just a snacking all day. I'd get up, pack my tent, and get out going. Within the first, hour, I tried to eat some sort of bar, and then try to eat every hour, hour and a half, something like that. So my taste definitely changed. So make sure you have an idea of what you want. My favorite thing that I ended up eating for snacks was kettle chips. I picked those up in Creed, jalapeno kettle chips, and then I had some Duke's little sausages. Those are great. Those got me through many miles, and I think I'll probably keep doing those in the future. But I said I really didn't want a big lunch. I'm not somebody that wants to stop and take a long lunch. I did find I did better if I rested every 2 hours, but I was there to make miles, and for me that means hiking a lot because I'm slow. But so your choice whether you want to prepackage your food and send it up or buy in town. Either way, I know when I resupplied in Breckenridge, Frisco area, there was a bit of, they have great buses there, but it takes a bit to get from Breckenridge to Frisco or Dillon, then Frisco and all around. So it does take a little while if you're looking to take the buses. So be aware of that, but there's plenty of options there. As far as other resupply issues, taking zeros, I only took one full zero on the trip, and that was in Leadville. However, I did do a couple Neros. Coming into Breckenridge, I hiked about 9 or 10 miles to get into town. On the way in, I was able to book a bunk at the Bivy Hostel, which is really pretty. If you want to think of what a classic image of a ski chalet looks like, that was it. It was really pretty. It was only $35 a night. And it was pretty good. I had some drama my first night there with one of the people in our room and for about 15 minutes, but that's nothing on the baby. It has to do with people in there, but I do understand why people are willing to pay a little more, just have their own private room, either at a hostel or get in a hotel. But it was really nice. They did have breakfast in the morning too, which was really good. I think one morning they had blueberry pancakes and the other was eggs and bacon, and that was really good. And then I kind of narrowed in, and then I hiked the next day. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then when I left there on day 3, I guess would have been, I ended up having to go up to Dillon to go to REI, and by the time I got on the road, it was early afternoon, so I did a short day out of there as well. The other place I did stay was in Leadville at In the Clouds Hostel. That was awesome. I would highly recommend it. It felt like home. You went down there, they had nice couches. It was really homey feeling. It was really, the room I stayed in, I think had about 8 different bunks, and everybody was really quiet. They had laundry facilities in there. That was just a great place staying. And once again, that was $35. And the caretaker, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, shuttled us back to the trailhead, and it was like $20, $30, something like that. It was really reasonable compared to calling somebody in town. So he was an awesome guy. But I would really recommend In the Clouds, and it's like 5 blocks from Melly. You just walk right down the main street and there's Melly. If you're hoping to get your Melly in Leadville, good luck. It's hit or miss even there if you want them, but I think they're worth it. So yeah, those were the only zero. That was the only day I actually took a full zero. It was in Leadville. I was trying to finish in so many days. Just I had stuff going on here at home. So if you could take more days, I would recommend. I heard great things about Raven's Roost if they're open. I kind of missed that, but I was really happy with Creed. Let's talk about a couple segments that come to mind. First one was segment 2, the burn scar. You hear all kinds of, the burn scar. The burn scar was one of my favorite segments. I got up at 4:30, I think, and I was hiking close to 5. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, if you're going to hit the burn scar in the middle of the day, it's probably going to be miserable. It's not that it's not pretty, it's just very open. It's got a little bit of climbing right out of the South Platte there. But I hit it early in the morning and hiked up, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It was one of my favorite areas, and they have beautiful views, wildflowers. I didn't think it was too strenuous. And then you get up into the woods and you're going through the woods for a while. And it wasn't until I came out of the woods that segment 2 became pretty warm. When you leave the woods going towards the fire station, it is open, and it did get hot there and get warm, and I got tired. I was really happy to make it into that fire station to get some water once I got there. So, but the beginning of Burns Guard, guys, it is gorgeous. Just hit it early. If you're going to hit it, if you're getting there in the late afternoon, I might consider just stay at South Platte there. Don't try to go through it because it is dry. I did not see any water from the South Platte until I got to the fire station. That part is true, but it's a beautiful section, so don't be intimidated by it. Just start early. If you get out there early enough, you're going to get up into the woods in the shade before it gets hot. But then once you come out of the woods, it's rolling. It's nothing too strenuous, but it felt like a couple miles, 3-4 miles, and it was exposed, so it was pretty warm there. The other segment that I did a little bit different was segment 7 between Breckenridge and Copper Mountain. Like I said, I narrowed into Breckenridge, stayed at the bivvy. Then I got up the next morning and did a shuttle over to Copper Mountain, and I hiked backwards. I hiked from Copper Mountain back to Breckenridge. Segment 7 is about 13 and a half miles. And there's a lot of elevation gain. If you go from Breckenridge, you got 8 miles, roughly 8 to 9 miles to get to the peak. To the top, and then if you go from Copper, you got about 4 to 5 miles. I decided I'd rather suffer and take the steeper route and get it over quicker than take that long drawn out day. And it was a good choice for me. I talked to a guy I met a couple days earlier. He was coming up the other way, and he was like, "Whew, I made a good choice." So it wasn't too hard coming up the backside. What actually got me was going back down into town. I didn't realize how long it was going to be. It was going to be about 9 miles. So by the time I finally got back to the main road where I could pick up the bus, I was pretty beat, and then I had to go get food at Walmart and everything like that. But flip-flopping segment 7 turned out really good because then I was able to get back to the bivvy and had another night in the bed, which was nice, and got miles in. And then the next morning I got up and went to Copper Mountain and took off from there. Like I said, I got there about noon, so I only got about half a day in. But that was a really good choice. The other choice, big choice, is the Collegiates. Are you going to go east or are you going to go west? I ended up going east. The whole time I had planned on going west. Do I regret it? Maybe. I live here in Colorado, so I can go back and do it. Why did I go east? I was beat. I was feeling down. I really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to finish the trail. And I figured if I went to Collegiate East, I could bail out easy. That was the whole reason. But the Collegiate East, if you think of the mountains kind of like this, there's a lot of little canyons that go in. And so you're going down, up, down, up, down, up. And there was a ton of climbing up and down every day. I know the Collegiate West starts off with Hope Pass, which is brutal, I've heard. But then I don't think it's quite the elevation gain and loss as the East. But luckily, by the time I got through the east, I was feeling good. I was feeling a little more confident that I could do it. But I had planned on going west, but I just wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it. Not just the west, but just make it through the whole hike. So I thought the east would be a little easier to bail off of, and I'm glad I didn't bail. But that's why I went Collegiate East over West. If I had the confidence in myself, I would go Collegiate West. Definitely, I think it's going to be a lot prettier. Another thing that you talk about, if this is your first through hike or your second one, a lot of people like to plan out their campsites. I know when I did the JMT a few years ago, I had every campsite planned out. That was great for the first day because I had to camp somewhere. After day 2, threw it out the window. Excuse me. Planning your campsites is a great way to help, kill the time between now and whenever you get on the trail. But honestly, it's a waste of time, in my opinion. Figure out maybe your first one, where you want to be, or where you need to be the day before getting into a town. Then after that, just play it by ear. Some days you're going to feel really strong. Other days you're not going to feel strong. I can't tell you how many times I thought I was done hiking, then I talked to somebody at a stream, or and they'd give me a little energy, and I'd hike another mile or two. I know the night before I went up and hiked San Luis, one of the 14ers, I had picked out a nice spot at the stream. I rested there for a little bit and talked to a lady. Gave me the inspiration to go up and push up and get up to San Luis and camp beneath the saddle there. So it's a good idea. It's kind of fun exercise of planning campsites, but don't get married. Don't get married to them. Be flexible. If you, like I said, some days you're going to feel super strong. Other days you're not going to feel so strong. So that's my suggestion. It's fun to kill time while you're waiting, but plan that first couple and then take it by ear after that. Maybe you're going to hook up with a bunch of people you want to camp with. Maybe they're going to go farther. Maybe they're going to go less. Okay, so be flexible. I know for me, like I said, I don't camp with people. I think 3 nights, 4 nights at max. And I didn't hike with people a lot. I know I hiked a couple days. And when I hiked my fastest, I was hiking with some young kids. A young 19-year-old kid coming into Camp Hale. He was slowing down for me, and I was speeding up for him. And then I hiked with a young lady from Miami coming down Elk Creek, and she made me feel really old because it was our first hike and big hike, and she was just flying down, which is awesome. I really enjoyed hiking with her, but that was okay. But be aware of that. Things I would change. Oh, I guess the biggest thing that I would change is kind of my attitude that I took onto the trail, of why I was doing it. I didn't know if I could do it, and that's why I ended up doing Collegiate East. I was there to push myself to see, could I hike the whole entire Colorado Trail? And I did. But that attitude was kind of detrimental to me. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as I would like to. If I would have been there to enjoy the Colorado, to enjoy the scenery, enjoy the people, which I did all that, but it was just a slight attitude difference in my mind. If I were to do it again, I know I can do it. I'd go back with a very different attitude. And that's the biggest thing that I would change, is have a different attitude that I took into the trail. Look at it as a fun adventure, a fun exploration, rather than just seeing if I could do it. If I would have gone in and said, okay, I'll enjoy it, get as far as I can, which was my originally plan for 2020. I planned 3-4 weeks on there, and it's just gonna go as far as I can, versus this summer I knew I had about 30 days to get it done. That attitude was a big difference. And so, that's up to everybody, your own. Why are you doing this trail? Is it to enjoy the scenery and to meet people? Awesome. That's a great reason to do it. Is it a physical challenge? People talk about these ultralight hikers that try to set FKTs and, they're missing the trail because they're going so fast. But, that's what their goal is. I think if I were to do it again, I'd try to set the SKT, slowest known time, on the Colorado Trail and take all the time that I can. So that's kind of the what worked for me, what didn't. A couple tricks and tips that I picked up on the trail that I'll share with you guys. As far as your daily planning, 2 things. You need, I guess now called the Far Out app. It's gut hooks. Was great. And then also the Colorado Trail data book, the small one, not the big thick one. I had both of those. I had the Colorado Trail data book, which would help me kind of plan where I wanted to go the next day. Give me an idea of my pace and stuff like that. But gut hooks, or Far Out, I guess it's now called, was really good for seeing how far the water was, seeing exactly where it is. It gives you, okay, you got 3 miles of water, you get 2 miles, there's water. You can look at the updates. Those were plenty. I also carried Eric DeBlack's guidebook with me because I like Eric DeBlack's stuff. I used it on the JMT. I found out I didn't really need that when I had Far Out and the CT data book. I think I actually ended up scanning the CT data book and had it as a PDF on my phone. And I used Eric DeBlack's just to mark where my camp was. Eric DeBlack's is a great guide, but you don't need it if you have the data book and the Far Out app. A couple other little silly things. I love Leukotape for blisters. It comes in a big roll. I saw in some other video where they talked about rolling around a pen. And I thought, okay, I could do that this time, because the last time I did it, most time I use it, I put it on a sticky paper, like mailing labels. I peel all those and put it in there. It was awful rolled on itself. I really recommend getting some sort of sticker back paper. Like I said, I used mailing labels and peeled all those off and just stuck it on there and cut it off and stripped. That was so much better. The couple times I had blisters trying to get it off when it's rolled on itself was miserable. So if you're going to use Leukotape, which I highly recommend, it's great for everything, really good for blisters. Put it on like a sticky tape, sticker back paper, or even maybe wax paper would work. And I just cut them in thin strips and fold them on top, and it worked great. I also ended up using all my duct tape, so maybe bring a little more duct tape than you can. A couple other things on there was hiking poles. I ended up, at night I would keep my hiking pole. I had one for my tent, and then I'd have my other one, just kind of lay it outside. And then woke up one morning and a rodent had chewed it. So my suggestion is, if you're using hiking poles, keep them handle up. Even if you lean them against a tree. I ended up putting my second one just kind of right next to my one that was holding up my tent, so the handles didn't get chewed off. I remember what else talked about. The other thing I picked up in Leadville, I was really worried about getting cold and hypothermic. When I did the JMT, I had a really bad experience on like day 3 coming over down to Hugh Pass into Reds Meadow, where I got super cold. I couldn't find a camp spot. So I was a little paranoid about the rain. In Colorado in the afternoon, we do get a lot of rain. So in Leadville, I was looking around the gear shops for some mitts, and what I ended up doing, they had a Dollar General or something like that. I went there and I bought a big pair of dishwashing mitts. They had the furly end to cut them off, and they were big enough that they fit over my gloves. So whenever it was raining really hard, I put those on, and it kept me really warm. That's something I liked, but it was a really good way to keep from getting warm. I know if you're keep from getting cold. If you're up at a high altitude and that storm comes in, it can be miserable. So a little trick there. And then I guess my last piece of advice is the idea: don't ever quit on a bad day or an uphill. Okay, things can always get better. Don't make decisions when you're tired and hangry and grumpy. Wait. If you're miserable 4 or 5 days in a row, maybe it is time to pack it in and go do something else a little less taxing. But if it's a bad day, no big deal. It's going to get better the next day. Like I said, I think I had after day 2, I think I had like 5-6 days where it rained every single night, which was nice because I had my tent, but I was packing up a wet tent. Don't ever quit on a bad day, okay? Pain is fleeting. You'll get over it, but that regret you'll have of giving up when you didn't have to give up is going to be pretty tough. So that's my kind of tips and tricks for you. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put those down below in the comments, and I will try to get back to you. But all of you guys that are getting ready to do the CT this year or an upcoming year, I hope this video helped. It's a great trail. I love it. Maybe one of these days I'll go back and do it. Hopefully I can talk my son into it. But this is my last video of my Colorado Trail series. So thank you guys for watching, and happy trails to y'all. Take care.